Today, the topic is very interesting, and the topic is actually what are the things men should resist?
I think the overarching theme is what should men not seek in terms of, as a general thing, is like the cheap and easy to access thrill, that comes without hard work, without effort.
The mental model that you build is looking at the goal that you have, and then you're like, okay, would that bring me closer to the goal? After hard work, the fruits that you get is basically the fruit of your hard work. And that could be applied to anything, the way you live your life, your work, your discipline.
When you say that I need to cut it completely, what happens is, if you have a little bit of sugar, it makes your life, you get the guilt feeling, and the guilt feeling will actually destroy everything, and then you're gonna skip. One thing I've been changing, again, it's the wording of it and how you frame it. I would love to minimize it as much as possible.
Incrementalism, from my side, it doesn't work for me. Like, it's either a, hell yes or a hell no. Like, I've done that in my life as well. I was like, no coffee, no tea, no Coca-Cola, never picked it up again.
It is becoming so normalized, but the reality is it has like really deep impact on us, to our relationships, to women in general, to ourselves, because at the end of the day, everything we see there is scripted, it's filmed, it's done in a certain way, and we think that is the way the act is to be done.
Ask yourself, what is the underlying need that is not met, that I'm trying to satisfy by porn or any other addiction? And then based on that one, once you have zoned down and figure out what that is, try to figure out what am I going to do about it.
All right,
Jump in.
let's do it. How are you guys doing?
Ali?
Should we start with Ali's update of what happened?
Well,
So
I've
guys,
been
like
traumatized.
Ali recently just adopted a bunny, and we were so happy for the bunny until Ali just broke the news to us.
I was extremely happy about the bunny. I created the bond with the bunny. It was almost like a bunny that was given away to us. And the challenging part is I really started to love it, even though it ate all my plants, but I still loved it. And then I figured out how to take care of a rabbit. And the moment I figured out how to take care of the rabbit, then it got killed by a fox. And I'm actually having a very hard time to deal with that emotion. I know I'm smiling. But I'm like,
unfortunately, I don't think you're having a hard time, Ali.
yeah.
What was the name of the rabbit,
How you
Ali?
deal with trauma.
What was the name of the rabbit?
The best way to deal with trauma is you smile it away.
No, bro, you don't. you don't. Oh my God! The name of the bunny was Cookie.
Yeah.
Cookie,
and now I have
Cookie
a
has
cookieless
been
future, bro.
crumbled. Okay, no.
And Fatima was like, dude, and the other day, like, Fatima was like, oh, I can buy a new one because I still blame her for opening the door so the rabbit could sneak out. I'm like, no, I fucking don't want to have a rabbit. I want to have a cat. So I might be able to get a cat now.
Take one of Rafi's.
After looking at what
no,
happened
thank
to
you,
Cookie,
man. They keep scratching him, and
I
they
don't think
dude,
so.
Even after all of this year, they behave as bitches with Rafi.
No, bro. Like, my father-in-law was here. He came 2 days ago, and they were completely fine with him. So apparently, they're just selective. Like if you are in the house for 2-3 times, they'll be fine with you. But yeah, very happy to be doing this episode. And today the topic is very interesting, and the topic is actually which I have been thinking about for a while, and I think a lot of the men also think about this thing. Like, what are the things men should resist? Because there are nuances. Like a lot of the people say, it's not good to watch porn, but a lot of the people are like, anything in the right amount and right quantity shouldn't actually be a problem. But I just want to hear nuances and also share some nuances on what are some things that has helped me when I got rid of them from my life, and what are some things you guys have, and resist even till date. So I would love to start with Neil, because I know he has a lot of temptations. So we will just start first with Neil, and then we will go to Ali.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, there's so many things, right? Like it can be your sexual appetite, your appetite in general, craving like sugary foods and fast foods. It could be dopamine, in the form of screens, entertainment, video games, all of these things. But I think the overarching theme is what should men not seek in terms of uh, as a general thing is like the cheap and easy to access uh, thrill, you know, that comes without hard work, without effort. And it's easy to say, but to put into practice, of course, is much more difficult, right? So it's something to actually strive towards. So what I mean by this, like an example can be like choosing the food that is nourishing instead of the food that is the best tasting, right? Uh, so it's actually making that conscious decision, and it may not be 100% of the time, but it's what you do most of the time as well. Another thing can be using your time productively, and not going, let's say, scrolling or video games, this kind of stuff. Like, to me, I don't play video games and stuff, right? And I don't see any problem with it as long as you're at a certain place. Like, if you're struggling in your life, your health is in shit, you're broke, this kind of stuff, and you're living in your mom's basement but playing video games, come on, you need to put some fucking work in, before you can reward yourself, even if you want to reward with that. So it's just the idea of going after quick fixes or immediate pleasure, instant gratification. I think that is the main thing, and it comes down to, okay, let's say your sexual appetite. You mentioned porn and all this kind of things that men may go after to get a certain feeling, to empty the sack, let's say. Um and it's easy, right? Like, boom, pixels on the screen, in a couple seconds you can have whatever feeling you want to feel, compared to having to go approach someone and cultivate a relationship and go on dates, and you minus so many things that develops your character, develops you as a man, and it takes away that whole process as well, and refining that process as well, because you're so just fixated on just an end goal, instead of just enjoying the whole entire thing, the whole build up and everything. Because come on, as men, we know, yes, we want to feel good, and we want to have that, right? But at the end of the day, like, if you're just getting it like this, like, where are you being developed? How are you getting better, um in all aspects of life? So yeah, I think it comes down to that. Like, the things that we should resist is the easy, fast, instant stuff, because then nothing gets moved forward in your life that way. And like I said, it can be applied to almost anything out there. But most importantly, it's how we spend our time, because that is a single determining factor on the outcomes that we get in life. How we spend our time, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I do stand by the quote, and I might not be quoting it right, but it says, hard times make good men, and good men make good times, and then good times make weak men. And I mean, something like that connotation. I'm sure I've butchered it.
Hard times
Um,
make strong men. Strong men make
yes,
good times. Good times make weak men.
exactly. And I feel like I agree to that, because like we can have things easy, like it's very easy to get things, in this time and age where everything is digital, everybody's accessible, communication, like the world is so small. The thing that you want, you can literally have in a matter of days, right? Like, but I think it's the principle of how you live your life, like choosing to take a cold shower versus just standing in a warm shower for half an hour, like just making these small decisions can really show you and make you stronger, because you just have to, take your body through, yourself through that hard time, that pain for a while, and then the pleasure gets you get after that, right? Like after hard work, the fruits that you get is basically the fruit of your hard work, and that could be applied to anything, the way you live your life, your work, your discipline. Like, we spend hours in gym every single week, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. Like, a lot of the people think that, weightlifting lifestyle is a lot easier, but going to failure every single time is hurtful. And then, bearing that pain after when you're sore, that is also extremely painful. And, it makes you resist a lot of the things that it's very easy for a lot of people, and it's their lifestyle, eating junk food, eating whatever you want to eat, and just resisting that and having that lifestyle is something, I do believe, can make you really disciplined and can get you very closer to your goal. Ali, what has been some resistances for you? Like, what are the temptations that you resist, and how do you deal with it?
So what I'm thinking about resistant to temptations, I think I split them up to two things. I split them up into the micro. I think a lot of the things that Neela covered, it can be junk food, it can be porn, it can be other things. But for me, it's more of a guiding principles. And I think one thing that has been coming to my mind one more time that has been revamping my mental model and how I tackle it is actually, again, I'm sure you've been hearing the sentence, will this make the boat faster? I don't know if you've been hearing the story. The context of it, I think it was the rowing team of UK that hadn't been winning shit for anything. They were the youngest team among all of the others. And then 2 years before the Olympic, they made the decision of asking themselves every single time. So every single time they wanted to make a decision, they will ask themselves, will this make the boat faster? And I think that was brilliant to how to zone down and ask yourself, this is my end goal. And I think we should resist temptation of anything that can take us off track of the end goal, whatever your end goal is. And it can vary. Again, if you have a spiritual side, then it may be, how can I get closer to God? If you have a financial focus at point of time, then it's the financial focus. If it's a relationship focus, then that. And I think what can happen in life is you ask yourself, so you set that end goal or ideal that you want to achieve, and then every single time you ask yourself, will this decision get me closer or further from what I want? And out of a sudden, it becomes way simpler to actually have a system that allows you, because deep inside, when you ask yourself that question, you actually know. Like, would watching porn give me a better relationship? No, most likely it's because I'm just escaping from maybe nurturing my own relationship, building on it, or fixing things that my partner is not liking with me that could, for example, get us closer. So, and I think that has at least been a very good guideline for me of asking myself, what is my end goal? And sometimes I also get off track and I forget what my end goal is. But one thing I would love to add to that one, because you were asking, like, what is, for me, the ultimate resistance is that I just don't become a modern slave. I still have my freedom, I have my free thinking, and I'm just like a sheep among all of the sheep that's just following what needs to be followed. And resist to be a copy of everyone else, and resist of just being in the hamster wheel, or whatever you call it, if that's, I think that's what it's called, right? In the everyday. I don't want to be sucked to life that I forget myself, forget my goals, forget where I need to be. So that for me is the biggest thing I need to resist, because that is a temptation of just working everyday job and say, you know what, I'm just going to do that for the next 30 years and I'm just going to retire. I don't know, man. That's not the life I wanted. So I need to resist that. I need to be sucked to the comfort zone, that I forget I actually have something that's made more beautiful. So that's for me resistant, to be sucked into society and you just copy the norms of society and you just become a copy of everything else until you figure out at the age of 60, I'm like, oh, maybe that's not the life I wanted to live.
Agreed. So
Tell me,
two things
Rafi,
that you mentioned
what
there.
do you
One,
think? And I know you have also a lot of good points on this.
no, I think you really hit the nail, Ali, because one thing that you said is that, okay, how are you building a mental model to live your life? The mental model that you build is looking at the goal that you have, and then you're like, okay, would that bring me closer to the goal? Would watching porn, or going out and meeting people who are not really supporting me towards that goal? There are so many temptations out there in the world, like looking at all of that, but also seeing my end goal and making the decision if it aligns with that or not. And I think that is a very good mental model, and I would love to also apply that in my life and make a lot of the decisions a lot easier. Yeah, go on.
No, I think one more point, because again, I know there are listeners out there. Sometimes the military mindset of, if I need to do this, I stick with it and I cannot do any mistakes. I don't know. I think the three of us are still similar, but still very different. I know, for example, say for you, both of you, you might have a way more disciplined mindset of saying, this is A, this is B, whatever it takes, I'm going to get there. I see that one as being a military mindset. But for example, I had a conversation with Fatima the other day, because I know, for example, again, women and their physique means a lot to them. And she was like, oh, I would love to go to fitness, but I would love to cut sugar completely from my life. But there are a danger in it that I've seen multiple times. When you say that I need to cut it completely, what happens is, if you have a little bit of sugar, it makes your life, you get the guilt feeling, and the guilt feeling will actually destroy everything, and then you're gonna skip it. One thing I've been changing, again, it's the wording of it and how you frame it. I would love to minimize it as much as possible. Because in that case, if you take a little bit of sugar, I'm like, it's okay, but I will continue my journey. And I think that's one thing that sometimes do not be too harsh about yourself. I know we want to make ultimate decisions that going to be leading our life into something that's better, but sometimes you also understand that even progress will lead eventually to transformation. Because I know a
Agreed,
lot of
agreed.
people when they're sitting out there, they are too tough on themselves. And they make it either binary, it's 0 or 1, but between 0 and 1, there are actually a lot of things.
Agreed, Ali. But I also believe that incrementalism, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, yeah, you can tell
I
me.
don't know if it's actually a word, but I know what it means. So
Now it is.
proceed.
It is definitely a word, Neil. Come on. Okay, incrementalism. I think, like, from my side, it doesn't work for me. Like, it's either a, hell yes or a hell no. Like I've done that in my life as well. I was like, no coffee, no coffee, no tea, no tea, no Coca-Cola, never picked it up again. Right. So to me, I feel like if something is not working for you, why even keep it in your fucking life, right? So, and that's why I think you might see me as somebody who is following a military mindset, and I might have, but honestly, like, my mentality, and it might be wrong as well. I was just speaking with Eve and telling her this, and she was like, maybe this is inside your head. I feel like if I don't work hard enough, I won't see the results, like that is in the back of my head, and I always fall into this fallacy. But I will pass it on to Neil, to share some thoughts on that as well, because I know that he's extremely disciplined as well. Like, even if he's busy, he will show up at like 3 p.m. dot, or maybe a bit earlier. But that's how he operates himself. So what do
Yeah,
you
I
think
mean,
about that?
so in terms of like reducing decision fatigue, right? Like that's how I like to view things. As in, I have my life in such a way I am very routine. I work with my calendar. So if I see something on my calendar, like for this podcast, Rafe sent the invite, but it was 1 hour earlier. So in my mind, I don't look at 2 p.m., 3 p.m. I just look at how much time until the next event in my calendar. I don't care what time of the day it is really. So that's how I operate. So then whatever I need to do, whatever I need to execute happens because that time is blocked off in my calendar. It might sound a little bit robotic, but it works for me. That's a system that works for me. So that what that does for me is it disallows anything else to trickle into my life. That is, as Ali said, not contributing to making the boat faster. Let's say, right? And now, uh, even more because I'm more settled. I now have a home that is long term, everything. So from this week, I'm going to get back fully into gear, and everything, business, health, fatherhood, all of these things, even more intense because I have that groundedness. But the way it happens is in routine for me. No, one thing we touched on the macro, right? Um, but let's go back to the topic, which is what should resist. And let's get specific now because we touched on the topics, right? So let's say, for example, one thing men should avoid completely, I would say, is porn. No, there's crazy stats today, even more than before, at the age of which young boys are exposed to this, right? And it's before they're teenagers, which is crazy. And it is becoming so normalized, but the reality is it has like really deep impact on us, to our relationships, to women in general, to ourselves, the expectations, because at the end of the day, everything we see there is scripted, it's filmed, it's done in a certain way, and we think that is the way the act is to be done, but that is not it. Other than that, it gives us the training in our mind that we always need something new every time we need something new to be stimulated, right? So can you imagine what happens in your brain and what happens in the real world after enough time, if as a young man today starting looking at this stuff. So to me it's like that's an absolute no to cut like complete cold turkey, and there was previous times where I was coaching, fitness coaching, health coaching, and actually this was one of the biggest things. The men I was actually working with, were struggling with. It wasn't their health, it wasn't this, but it was this addiction to porn. And I think, uh, I mean, there's the progressive way to do it, which is slowly wean off and all of this. But to me, it's like try your best to go cold turkey, and the way um, you can possibly do that is to make sure you have as less free time as possible, because that's when you find the time for these kind of things to come in, right? So uh, you need to figure out how to fill up your calendar, like I do, which is one strategy. If you're a young single man out there, uh, go on dates and stuff instead, to actually enjoy that phase of it, which is the actual part that would develop you, instead of just staying in your room and choking your monkey all the time. Like it's not gonna help you, and
Choking
it's
your
actually
monkey.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
what you said?
It's just
Choking
gonna
your
cause,
monkey?
but yeah, it's not gonna help you in any way. It's not gonna help your relationships, and it's gonna have like severe long-term effects. Like it's out there, right? All the science, all the studies, everything is out there. And the crazy thing is, like, it's one of the most irresistible thing to us as men, especially, right? That's like saying, oh, we're gonna let a supermodel walk past in front of you, and you can't look. You're like gonna be twitching, right? So it takes immense discipline to actually pull this off. But once you do, your quality of life, your relationships, everything will see, a much better, uh, or you will have a much better experience with these things. So I think that is one of the major things for men, especially.
Yeah. In short, don't choke your monkey, you guys.
Exactly.
Stop
Ali,
choking your monkey.
Bro, do you know actually, because I was like listening to a podcast the other day, do you know one of the worst addictions among younger people that is way more tough than even porn and alcohol? Gambling.
Social media. What?
gambling.
How are
Gambling
they
is
getting the
actually
fucking
one of the
money?
dude. Once you get an addiction to gambling, it's almost nearly impossible to get out of it, and this is where people struggle the most because they start with betting on sport at a younger age, and once you get into gambling, and that is actually also like statistic from Denmark showing that this is actually one of the worst thing and also one of the hardest things to get out of once you actually develop an addiction. And for me, I understand, but for me, I think there are a set of things that I'm not like, whatever happens, a younger age or during life, try to, I understand the porn part of it, very, very big one, but there are multiple ones. I see, of course, drugs and drugs addiction, which has been becoming very, very, very big. Honestly, uh, I'm shocked to hear people at the age of almost 16 at the gym I'm going with too, like super simple gym, to discussing steroids. Dude,
Hmm.
for me, I'm like, whatever happens, fucking keep yourself away from that shit. It will destroy you at some point of time. You were speaking about it, social media and the effect of social media. Let's discuss it. I'm like, resist that you get an understanding of that is reality, and when it's just a fake reality that people are portraying. There are no difference between porn and social media. People are just portraying as like an ultimatum fantasy reality that is not existing, and then you get sucked to that is reality. The problem is you will build your life that this is the ultimate I want to achieve, and once you realize this is not reality, that gap creates something with you. Then you will keep searching for something that might never be a reality because it was never a reality in the beginning. The whole topic about junk food, honestly, from a very early age, try to make it a habit to avoid junk food in general. So I think the porn, gambling, alcohol, because at a younger age it might be very fun. I didn't drink, but I've seen people who have been starting very early and they have a very big problem of getting off alcohol. And for example, in Denmark, it is a very big problem. It's not something that a lot of people speak about, but it is a problem behind closed doors. And then you have the temptation of social media and the addiction that you are just constantly, your attention is just ultimately drained. You don't have a
Agreed.
life energy. It sucks your life energy. That's what people don't realize. Your attention, your life is being sucked away from social media. So you don't even have an energy or the motivation or the chemicals that even need to activate you to actually do something with your life. And then I think I don't remember the last one, what it was, but those are some of the things that I would say, whatever happened, resist them, because they would
Agree.
never ever get you somewhere that you will achieve something where you realize that okay, my life has been meaningful.
Have you guys used this app called Opal?
It's the app that like stops you from using social media if you try opening it, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it has been very effective for me because see, like all of us are trying to, build our presence on social media. So we are posting a lot. So we have a knack to see, how is it performing.
Yeah,
Just finding out
exactly.
newer things. So I've downloaded and it saves me a lot of time. So I think social media is great. The point that I would add to, and I think I'm not too sure if you guys would agree to it, but to me, I think novelty, the need for novelty, is a very big temptation, and especially if you get the resources that you need to get newer things, newer experiences, newer food, like the waste, because it creates so much freaking waste. It's just mind blowing to me. So I think need for novelty, it again is the same dopamine hits, right? Like whenever you get something new, go out to eat some new food, trying expensive restaurants, buying newer clothes, even if you don't need it, newer phones if you don't even need it. I think the need of novelty is also a big temptation and has been for me. And I have been, really controlling myself because now I have a big vision. As Ali said, my big vision is okay, I want to build a fucking house. So I'm like, okay, everything else is a distraction. Will it get me there? Will it get me to build a house, build the business that I'm trying to build, make myself a better man? Can I, am I learning more if I'm doing this? So I think that mental model is incredible. And, avoiding that need for novelty is big. But going back to choking your monkey, I want to know more about this because, of course, like when it comes to that, there are nuances about no nut November, and like you. There are also a lot of the men who just don't do it, and so what are those nuances? Would love to hear from your side, like. Do you guys practice any such things, no nut Novembers, or semen retention, whatever? Like there is so much that a lot of the people have now made a lot of the other people aware, and would love to understand what your thoughts are.
Yeah. For me, I have been doing some stuff for over the years, for quite some time actually. One of the things I did practice is semen retention, and now it's not even voluntary when you have a kid. You just retain.
Bam.
But Ali knows. But you don't have time for the choking, you know. Anyway, so which is good because okay, here's the principle: sexual energy is one of the most powerful energies that we have as human beings. This is the energy that would get men to conquer other kingdoms and climb mountains and do all sorts of things, because it's so powerful. And like in us is that seed, the seed of life to create, right? And every time we do this, we spill the seed and freely, cheaply to just pixels on the screen, and it's such potent, powerful energy. And think about how you feel after. Like once you finish, that's it. You just want to lie and do nothing, right? Like your energy is gone. So if you learn how to actually cycle that energy in your body and use it and channel it towards other things, that's a very powerful thing, and that is what very powerful men do. If you do some research, look at like some of the most famous athletes out there, like really powerful men in history. They have been practicing semen retention, right? Which is essentially retaining your seed. And it's not that you shouldn't have sex and stuff if you have sex with your partner or your woman, like you can still do that, but if you learn to actually keep that, that's a very powerful thing. So here's one way I used it. Like when I was writing my book, um I did it in such a way where, so there's this quote: focus on a single goal, a single task, and beat it into exhaustion, right? So my single goal, my single task was to write this book. So nothing outside of that at the time mattered to me. So I put myself on this retention journey. So I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to do this until I finish my book. So that way I had extra motivation because, I mean, come on, as a young man training healthy, fit, you have that need, right? And if you can resist that and you put something on yourself like that. So that got me to write my book in 127 days, So that's one way I applied it, but I was very disciplined with it. At the time, I was single as well. So the urges was much less, and I kind of put myself in this monk mode phase. I was back in the Caribbean and stuff, so it was somewhat easier, but still, of course, it's a very challenging thing, right? But if you learn to actually utilize this energy, it can be very, very, very powerful and potent. So that's how I use it. Ali?
I think there are two different scenarios, and again, I think for me there are no always complete answer. It's always depending on the scenario and the situation. If you are single or if you are married. If you are single, we need to realize it again. Your sexual energy is at the highest. If you think you are in the 20s, then this is where your hormones are at the highest, and this is also where your body is really in the desire of the sexual needs. And I think sometimes it's not just to suppress these needs. They are there, and sometimes I'm saying it is part of me. As simple as that. Desire is good, as you said. It could be used for that one, but I think it goes down to the deepest of human and human evolution of saying that reproduction and connection to the other energy and having a partner in your life is definitely a desire. So for me, it is just a human desire. So one of the things is I started, instead of seeing, oh my God, this is something that needs to be very far away from me and foreign, and I don't need to think about it, to embracing it and say, dude, it's just a human desire and it's part of my life. When you are married, and I think sometimes of asking yourself, if you still are in need of porn in your life, ask yourself, what do I not have in my life? And what is the underlying needs that are not covered in here? And I think there are always a certain need that might not be covered that you are, for example, looking for the alternative. I guess for example, in my case, sometimes if it's lack of connection. If you have a partner, but as you say, sometimes life gets busy or life gets tough and you get through hard time where that connection is not there. And at the end of it, when I was looking into it, if you think about the whole intimacy with another partner and so on, it's not just the physical part. It's not the sexual interaction and so on. It's way deeper than that. It is actually the whole connection part that is actually happening. And sometimes, again, I don't know, you can speak Neil and so on also with a partner in Rafi. It's when you are looking for something, I think sometimes asking, first of all, yes, you might have the guilt feeling and it might be an energy you have been wasting, but always ask yourself, because if you learn and you at least grow from that, that's the most important. What are the needs that are not met that I need to go to this compared to, for example, a real relationship? And once you start to ask yourself, I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are not met in my life. Okay, then ask the next question. What can I do about it? Because most of the time, porn or any of the other addictions is basically an escapist. You escape from your life and facing reality because you don't want to face reality and do the hard work of fixing your reality. And I think that's the important part of it's not just about porn. Porn is like, listen, it's an addiction and so on. It depends also how severe it is. I don't know. And I'm serious, I didn't have real people, and it's not because people around me have been speaking about it and how much it's been affecting them. I've only been reading about it. And thanks God, I feel I got married at the age of 23, and I think that has been a very big blessing for me, that I didn't really need to struggle for many years before having a partner in my life. Which is why I'm always saying, like, if you can get married younger, if that's a possibility, honestly, go and do it. So that's a little bit, again, on a summary, ask yourself, what is the underlying need that is not met, that I'm trying to satisfy by porn or any other addiction? And then based on that one, once you have zoned down and figure out what that is, try to figure out, what am I going to do about it? And this is where I'm going to be saying, be a fucking man and stand up and face those challenges and those shadows and those hardness in your life, because that is what's going to get you to the level that you want to have. What did I just say that these guys are fucking smiling?
You talked about standing up. You talked about
Standing and
hardness.
hardness. Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
all
yeah,
need
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. It's
channel,
called
channel
metaphor.
the, you know,
Channel the monkey.
Dude,
channel
are
the
we speaking about
monkey.
the
Tame the
same topic?
monkey.
Yes. No,
Yes,
but
yes.
it's valid, right? I'm curious, but Ali, you gave from the perspective of someone who is married, which is super interesting as well, because you still need to manage it in there. Because people think, oh, when you're married or in a relationship, you don't have as much temptations and resistance, but it's just as much in
It
there,
is.
right? Like, nothing really changes in terms of temptations. Like, that's the reality.
Yeah, but when you're
Absolutely.
saying so, Neil, when you okay, so that's I think that's let's zoom a little bit in on that topic because I think you said it multiple times that even though you are in a relationship, there are still an external temptation. Can we speak about that topic for a second? With temptation for what? Is it the constant sexual desire? What else are you, for example, very specific? What are you looking for externally that you might not have internally?
Tell us, Neil.
I'm not
So,
married.
dude, it's not to put anyone on the spot. Seriously, in here,
No, but
let's really reflect out loud.
yeah, no, like whether you're whether you're married, single, in a relationship, the temptation is always there, right? For seeking extra attention or sexual satisfaction, whatever it may be. It is
Not
there.
sure what you're talking about.
No, I'm walking on the tightrope right now, but it's okay because we are all men and we know how men think. So that is the reality. But the thing is how what you do with that. Like I said, I always say channeling, right? So, um, you know, every man would have this need, desire, and this urge internally, but it's what you do with it, how you act. So it comes down to the action.
With that being said, I think it was an amazing conversation. We'll see you guys next week, and of course with a new topic. And I hope you could get something out from this conversation. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah,
Thank you,
at
Ali.
least they got a good laugh out of it, man. Cookie, we put Neil under the bus. I have been using metaphors without being intentional. Man, best podcast ever.
All right, guys. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you guys.